Send me out. Big shots, nigga, wreck your block.
For fuck's sake, seriously, what the fuck did you just do? Fuck's sakes, you child molester fucking heads. That's all you are. That's all you are. Keep it up. For fuck's sakes. Sir Clásicos Portugueses.
Those big red and blue packages of Quaker Puff Rice and Quaker Puff Wheat. Now, our featured man who held a gun on the sergeant ordered him and Tom Elliott to sit down on the cot in the corner of the one-room cabin. Then he settled himself in a chair near the stove.
I'm not going to take a chance on tying you two up until Brad gets back. But if either of you make a move, I'll shoot.
I've seen you around Dawson. They call you Laramie, don't they?
Some folks do.
Were you the one who fired the shots at Cass Evans tonight?
No,
It was the other one. The one called Brent, Sergeant.
Shut up.
What can you do to make me?
I can pull this trigger.
Well, sooner or later anyway. I've been a prisoner here for more than a week, Sergeant. Twice they've tried to shoot Evans. If they'd succeeded either time, they'd have put a bullet through me and left me lying near the trail. It would have looked like a gunfight with 2 casualties. Great scheme. Only Brant can't shoot straight. Your boss won't like it when he finds out he's failed again, Laramie.
Shut up.
Who is their boss, Tom?
I don't know. Somebody who tried to kill Evans a long time ago and, is afraid that Evans will recognize him and send him to jail.
You talk too much, Junior.
You've been doing the talking all week.
I may have to keep you alive, but there's nothing to stop me from beating your head in.
Don't try it, Laramie. My hands are perfectly free, remember? Go on, Tom. They plan to pin the blame for Evans' murder on you because of what you said at the Monte Carlo, right?
That's right. Now, don't take any of that back. I have no sympathy for him.
Why not?
Because he's my father.
Your father? And you find that a good reason?
He deserted my mother and me when I was only 13. Left the 2 of us to run the ranch, went to Frisco with a load of cattle, and never came back.
It's a sad story.
Save your laughs, it gets sadder. We lost the ranch and Mom died. She was always sure that something had happened to Pa or he'd have come back to us. I'm glad she never found out the truth.
What truth?
That he just ran away and left us, changed his name so we couldn't find him. When I think of it, him, the owner of the Aurora, with all the money in the world, and just a few dollars would have meant to Mom.
You've got it all wrong, Tom.
Yeah?
Yes. Now that I finally have it straight.
King! In response to his master's voice, the great dog King, who had been lying just outside the door, threw himself against it. In a fraction of a second, Laramie turned his head toward the door, and the sergeant was on top of him. As they rolled on the floor, the sergeant held Laramie's gun hand away from him. One shot went into the ceiling, and then, with relentless pressure, the sergeant twisted Laramie's wrist.
No!
The gun skidded across the floor.
Get it, Tom.
I've got it.
All right, you. Stand up. Good thing he didn't look through my pocket. He'd have found these handcuffs. They look better on you than they would on me, Laramie.
What have I done?
You mean what have you accomplished? Nothing, I'm glad to say. But you've shown enough criminal intent to put you in jail for a long time. All right, King, I'll let you in, boy. All right, fella, it's all right. Sorry to have worried you. Good work, King.
Sergeant, you said I had it all wrong. What did you mean?
Tom, you heard Laramie say that his boss tried to kill your father once.
I didn't have anything to do with that. I never met Dexter until he hit Dawson 2 months ago.
So it's Dexter, the promoter. Thanks very much. Dexter and Brent.
But about Pa.
He was shot, Tom. Motive was robbery, I suppose. He was thrown into the harbor for death, but he was rescued.
Well, then why didn't he come home?
Because he lost his memory and never regained it. He changed his name because he didn't know his right one. His only clue was the initials on a handkerchief. C.E.
And Mom was right all along.
Yes.
His name is Charles Elliott.
Wouldn't you like to tell him that, Doc?
You know I would, Sergeant.
Lost his memory. Then he couldn't have sent Dexter to jail. Dexter had nothing to be afraid of.
He has now. So have we until Dexter's behind bars.
Sergeant, there's Brandt, too. He's coming back here.
If he's still in Dawson, we'll pick him up there, and if we meet him on the trail, he'll join our party. Let's go.
As they started out with Laramie riding the sergeant's sled and Tom driving his own, Ben Dexter was pacing the floor of his room in the Palace Hotel. Brandt was sitting on the bed. All the stupid, blundering fool.
I told you how it was. I thought I hit him with my first shot.
Ah, you thought.
He dropped on his sled.
Never mind, never mind. You were promised $10,000 to kill a man and you missed. You got away.
It won't happen again.
No, because the next time I'll see the job is done right. What's more to be done tonight?
Here? In the hotel?
Now listen. Do you know his dogs?
I oughta. I saw him often enough when I was working up at the mine.
Can you pick him out of the run in back of the hotel?
Sure.
You know his sled?
Yeah.
Then go downstairs, the back way. Get his team harnessed.
Right away.
Now, wait, that isn't all. After you finish harnessing your team, walk around to the front of the hotel and into the lobby.
Yeah?
Now ask the clerk what room he's in. Say that you have an important message for him that must be delivered in person.
I got you.
When you got the number of the room, climb the stairs to the second floor. Wait there for a few minutes. Then go back to the clerk. Tell him that he must be out. He didn't answer your knock.
Yeah, but the key of the room, if the clerk doesn't have his key...
A man doesn't always turn his key in at the desk. Now look, the clerk won't pay too much attention. He'll be half asleep at this hour. Now, do you understand?
Yeah. I say he didn't answer my knock.
So you leave the hotel by the front way. Go round and back. Use the back stairs and come up here.
Oh, I got you. Then you and
That's
me...
all you have to do. Come back here after you're finished and I'll take charge.
Right, boss.
Brandt followed Dexter's instructions, but it was nearly half an hour later when he returned to the room. Well,
All set.
been gone long enough.
Oh, I had a little trouble finding the sled, and then the dog started to bark. I beat him good, and they shut up.
Anyone see him?
No.
All right. What's the number of his room?
210. Just below this one.
Good. Now, when he opens the door, I want you to hit him once with the butt of your gun behind the ear. Knock him out, but don't crack his skull.
Okay.
I'll put this lamp out. Come on. The two men walked swiftly down the corridor to the back stairs, then down the back stairs to the second floor. Now they walked slowly, very softly. Ben struck a match. This is it. Yeah. Don't want to knock too loud, but I've still got to wake him up. A message, Mr. Evans. It's important. Get him. I said him.
I wanted to make sure.
Come on, inside the room. Now, we tie him, dress him, and gag him, and take him out to Lookout Hill, where you can try to put a bullet in him, this time at close range. When the sergeant, Tom, and Laramie reached Dawson, their first stop was at the Northwest Mounted Headquarters, where Laramie was locked up. Then the sergeant and Tom drove on to the Palace Hotel. Pretty late, Sergeant.
After 11 years, I don't think your father will mind being wakened. Come on. Come on, King. As usual, Johnny's sound asleep. Wake up, Johnny.
Oh, Sergeant. I must have dozed off a little.
Just a little. What room's Cass Evans in?
210.
Right.
I would say he isn't in.
At this hour?
But it's practically morning, isn't it?
When to go out?
Well, I didn't see him go out.
And you probably didn't see him come in.
No, I mean, this was only about 15 minutes ago. Fella came in and asked for him. I told him 210 and he went up. In a few minutes he came down again, said he'd knocked on the door and no one answered.
Someone asked for him this time of night.
I think he works at the Aurora. Forgotten his name, a big guy with a red beard.
Sergeant, that's Branch, Johnny.
How long was he upstairs?
Just a few minutes.
Are you sure?
It only seemed to be a few minutes.
Come on, Tom.
Sergeant Tom and King ran up the stairs. There was a hanging oil lamp at either end of the corridor. Halfway down it, the sergeant could see the dim forms of two men. They were carrying another man.
Sergeant, there's Brant now.
Carrying another man. They killed by hitting him with
Ben
the third
Dexter shot out the lamp over the back stairs. He and Brandt dropped Cass and ran for the end of the corridor. The sergeant ran after him. He leaped over Evans' still form and caught Brandt just as he reached the stairway. He grabbed the shoulder of his partner and whirled him around. His right crashed into the red-bearded jaw, and Brandt staggered back against the wall. His hand went for his gun. The left knocked him down. The sergeant jerked Brandt's gun from its holster.
Watch him, King.
The sergeant ran to the end of the corridor and opened the window. In a second, he climbed through and dropped to the ground near the rear door of the hotel. As he scrambled to his feet, Ben Dexter came through the door holding a gun. Preston charged from the side. Ben turned, but too late to swing the gun around. The hard impact of Preston's charge jolted the gun from his hand. Ben tried to turn back into the hotel, but the Mountie grabbed his left wrist and twisted his arm behind his back.
You've gone far enough, Dexter. You're under arrest in the name of the Queen.
Dexter and Brandt joined Laramie in jail that night, and Tom's father was taken to the hospital. He had a slight concussion, and it was morning before he opened his eyes. He saw the sergeant, King, and Tom standing beside his bed.
Hello, Charlie.
Charlie, that is my name, isn't it?
You remember?
Yes. My head. Something's happened to my head.
You were hit and hit hard.
This guy
It
thinks
seems to
two
have
different
brought
bad
back your
guys in
memory.
this guy.
I know. I'm not Cash Evans, I'm Charlie Elliott.
Do you remember your son?
Hello, Pa. Tom. It's been so long. You were only a boy, and now you've come up here to...
No, Charlie, you're wrong. Tom had nothing to do with those attempts on your life. There was a man named Dexter who was trying to kill you. You remember him? Remember Dexter?
Dexter. After I sold the cattle, the man who robbed me, the man who shot me. Easy, Pa.
Yes, Charlie, there's no need to get excited. We know all about it. Dexter's in jail, and so are the two men who were working with him. They'll stay there the rest of their life. All you have to do is rest easy.
But, Tom, there's so many questions.
You can wait. You'll have a long time to get acquainted with your son.
I'll be right here, Pa. Good boy.
Come on, King. The case is closed.
In just a moment, Sergeant Preston will give you a preview of Monday's adventure. Well, sir, fellas and girls, next Sunday is the first day of a new year. And right here is someone who wants to say something to each and every one of you. Here is Sergeant Preston himself. And naturally, I don't have to tell you that King is here too, right beside you.
Fellows and girls, King and I just want to wish you a happy new year. May the coming year be the finest, the happiest ever for you and your family. How about it, King? That's King's way of saying for the both of us, Happy New Year.
And Sergeant Preston, that goes for me and all of us here. And for the Quaker Oats Company, makers of Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. Yes, from all of us, a Happy New Year to one and all. Listen Monday when Sergeant Preston and Yukon King meet the challenge of the Yukon in the case of Rainbow's End.
When Andy Miller was released from prison and paroled to me, I found him to be a likable young man determined to make good. His conviction had been based on circumstantial evidence, and I decided to reopen his case. This decision took King and me on a strange trail that was marked by murder.
Be sure to hear this exciting adventure Monday. These radio dramas, a feature of the Challenge of the Yukon Incorporated, are created and produced.
Best Esther Perel, Antonio Albanese. He's the fucking 40s.
E a festa continua, diversões para animar. Muita gente cruza a rua, a festa vai. Que as festas vão, é hora, toda a gente está feliz, com festas mais bonitas que as festas do meu país. É hora de dar vida ao coração, não há festas mais bonitas que as festas do verão. É hora, toda a gente está feliz, com festas mais bonitas que as festas do meu país.
世界，除了斯里兰卡，在今天的马六甲、爪哇、泰国和印度等地，也留下了郑和船队的众多遗迹，见证了一段中。
中国国际广播电台 The Voice of South China Sea from China Radio International。唯有自首才有答案。南海之声。
听众朋友，你好，欢迎。
Yeah, serve only one station ethnic. Mr. Call Center,
Deixo demais te amar assim. Minha timidez tem que ter fim.
Virus vaccines have arrived in Serbia.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Now the news, I'm Sui. China has said it will stand firmly with the Philippines to jointly fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and push for economic recovery. Visiting Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks during a meeting with Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. Wang said China has decided to offer the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines to the Philippines for free, considering its urgent need. The Chinese Foreign Minister noted the country will help the Philippines to facilitate vaccine procurement from Chinese enterprises, emphasizing that cooperation is the best way to defeat the pandemic. The Philippines has reported over 498,000 COVID-19 infections and close to 9,900 deaths. 1 million doses of China's Sinopharm inactivated coronavirus vaccines have arrived in Serbia. Serbian President Alexander Vučić described the vaccine as a proof of friendship between Serbia and China. The president said a vaccine will help protect the lives of 500,000 people, and he will get vaccinated with the Sinopharm vaccine. Sinopharm is the third vaccine to arrive in Serbia after the Pfizer-BioNTech and Sputnik V vaccines. A vaccine made by Chinese biopharmaceutical company Sinovac Biotech will be used for mass vaccination against COVID-19 in Azerbaijan. Authorities say the rollout will start on Monday, with health workers and other populations at risk as the priority group. Assistant to the Azerbaijani President Shamal Musamov praises the China-made jab, saying the country has got the most safe and effective vaccine. Azerbaijan has purchased 4 million doses of the vaccine from Sinovac, the first batch of which has been delivered to the country recently. Hubei province, which was once hit hard by COVID-19, has sent medical supplies worth about 10 million yuan to Hebei province to help curb the spread of the pandemic. The medical supplies include 1 mobile nucleic acid testing vehicle, automated nucleic acid purification, and polymerase chain reaction analysis systems, 4 head thermometers, hazmat suits, and masks. The automated testing vehicle can complete nucleic acid testing of more than 20,000 people in 1 day using the mixed testing approach. A senior aide has said U.S. President-elect Joe Biden will sign executive orders on Inauguration Day next week to address the pandemic, the ailing U.S. economy, climate change, and racial injustice in the country. Biden's incoming chief of staff, Ron Klain, said all of these crises demand urgent action. Klain added that Biden will sign roughly a dozen orders after he's sworn in on Wednesday. The U.S. is fast approaching 400,000 deaths from the COVID-19 crisis and logging well over 1 million new cases a week as the coronavirus spreads out of control. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has warned that a new coronavirus variant first identified in the UK could become the dominant strain in the U.S. by March. The CDC said in a weekly report that a virus mutation has the potential to increase the country's pandemic trajectory in the coming months due to its high transmissibility. As of January the 13th, 76 cases of the coronavirus variant have been detected in 10 U.S. states. The CDC also said although there's no known difference in clinical outcomes associated with the variants, a higher rate of transmission will lead to increasing cases and the number of people who need clinical care. Canada's COVID-19 cases have surpassed 700,000. The disease has so far killed over 17,800 people in the country. Canada has begun its largest mass vaccination program in history, with COVID-19 inoculations getting underway. The country has secured more than 400 million vaccine doses from multiple manufacturers, including Pfizer and Moderna, the only 2 COVID-19 vaccines currently approved in Canada. The Spring Festival Gala is going to be staged online to celebrate the upcoming Chinese Lunar New Year in Houston, Texas.
Where?
Now, though, it seems it's here to stay, as more and more women are deciding to love their fuller figure.
As YouTube and Youcool, among others, on February 6th. And that's the news. I'm Sui.
Are you Marshal Dillon? I am. My name's Parker. I'm a...
Time to pack her suitcase.
Full of fish and chocolates.
Fresh. Then add in your mushroom. Something fun. Something more.
Studio Plus. Studio Plus. Hello and welcome to Studio Plus, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Ningjing and with me is Liu Min.
Hello everyone. Hello Ningjing.
Hello Liu Min. Coming up, Beijingers rushing to outdoor ice rinks to polish their ice skating skills. Also, Japanese brewer Sapporo is to launch a new beer despite an embarrassing typo on the beer bottle. Also, China is to introduce the forest chief scheme nationwide.
Indeed, at the same time, we've got some cool songs for you. You can listen to us live on chinaplus.cri.cn, or you can find us on Apple Podcast by searching for Studio Plus. We're on Facebook too, so make sure you leave us a comment, opinion, suggestion, anything you want to share with us on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And now to kick things off, let's go to a song by Amy MacDonald, Woman of
Scotia. Scotia. That's all.
David Gisbell. Silencio.
Could not name them that, and it's like that name's completely ruined. If anything, it's when you go through the process of naming a child, that has to be that. And the other consideration is, do you know anyone else that has a kid with that name? So you can't double dip. You can't steal a name.
But what if you dated somebody named Susie, and then your wife is like, "Hey, let's name the baby girl Susie," and you're like, "Ha ha ha, funny story." You can't name your kid after
do a hard pass on that. Yeah, no, you can't. Of course not, because then what happens? What if the ex finds out, and then the ex is going to think you named the baby after them, and then, oh boy, that's a whole other problem that you're trying to deal with there.
I did meet a listener once, so I was given the name Zach for the radio shows when I was doing music radio years ago. And I literally walked into the radio station, and my boss had put out a memo saying, "By the way, your name is now Zach." And so I did meet a listener once that came in, and so Zach Hewitt was the name that I was using on the radio. And I met her kids, and I have a photo with her 2 kids, and one of the children is named Zach, and the other kid is named Hewitt. So I don't know.
Oh, wow. Isn't that something? You know, radio stations are cheap here in the United States. I don't think it's the same in Canada, but I've heard a lot of people mention that when they accepted a job and they went to that radio station, they were renamed based on the jingles they already had cut. So you had to find some sort of combination of whatever jingles already existed, and that was your name because they were too cheap to record new ones.
That's funny. I have never heard that before. No, it's not. Has never had that experience here. That is cheap, man.
That's how it
works. All right. So it's been a hell of a week, man, in your country. It's been confusing, and it's been scary, and it's been sad, and all these things from the outside. Ryan, what's going on?
Pop was different.
Yeah, I know. It was fun talking names there, and this has been the difficult thing is trying to figure out how this is gonna play out, what's gonna happen, and really the repercussions of what happened at our Capitol when there was a protest that turned into a mob of people rushing into the Capitol building while official business was being done. And it was a really scary moment because you're watching some of these things unfold, and people are just freely walking in to the Capitol building, and they're just doing so, celebrating, and they're doing it in a way to make it look like there's nothing wrong with this. It was just so nonchalantly, and they were walking around like they own the place, and you're thinking, I cannot believe that this is happening right now. We had security guards and police officers that were injured, and so far 2 have died. We had other protesters that died too from some of the different injuries that happened. It was a real terrible moment in history.
As an American, man, like how do you sit with this? I mean, to me, it seems like when you go across political parties, there doesn't seem to be many people that were okay with what.
Oh, I never got to BBC.
Of the city's outdoor skating venues.
Okay, right, hold on.
Speak to the media later today. We do not.
It's 1,000.
It's requirements regarding their bodies.
Okay, the big girls, right? Okay.
He will follow the law.
He also says he's waiting for the internet to be switched back on so he can prove there was fraud.
Switch back on.
Yes, that's what he said. He did say that he's got video evidence of vote rigging, that he's got evidence of the ministry apparently offering people pre-ticked ballots to cast, and other people also being forced to vote within the view of the security forces so they could see who they were ticking. He claims that he will release this information once the internet is on and it's easy to communicate, because he also complained that the internet being off made it difficult for people to reach each other, to report fraud in real time. And we hope that he's got this evidence, because the Electoral Commission has said to him, since you're making an allegation, you need to be able to show us proof that there was rigging.
Patience Atuhaire in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. You're with the BBC World Service. I'm Paul Henley. This is Weekend. Now, the rollout is underway in India of what will be one of the world's biggest immunization drives against coronavirus. India has the second highest number of COVID cases worldwide. It's hoping to inoculate 30 million people in the first phase, which deals with healthcare workers. But there's massive controversy in this campaign because one of the two vaccines that's been approved has yet to pass phase 3 clinical trials with the protesters. So they said, okay, we're not doing this or that anymore. So all these agencies started to change policies. And next thing you know, you look at this and say, okay, these Capitol police officers, even though they tried to stop, they were overwhelmed. And then the policy turns into, we can't do anything. We're just going to have to retreat. And then we're stuck with watching what we're watching. And I think that some people get so emboldened with the idea that, hey, I've seen it before. I could probably get away with it. This is just our turn. That's a terrible way to look at it. But I feel like some people just feel like what they were doing was not illegal. What they were doing, what they thought were doing were something excusable, as in some sort of the act of protest would allow them to do that. And they get into their minds, and they're finding out very quickly once they get arrested, they're facing 10 years in prison for doing this, and rightfully so. But there's all kinds of things that I think led up to this moment and to where we are today. The problem is it's not de-escalating, it's only escalating at this point.
Well, one of the things that got me is from the outside, it looked like it was a movie. I mean, it did make me question, say, like, is this the impact of people who buy into movies as being truth, right? That just can't distinguish the difference because they seem to just walk in, like, to think that the police are not going to defend themselves in certain ways, even with the the poor lady who got shot. And I do say poor lady because nobody needed to die, but they were breaking windows and breaking through doors, and then they seemed so surprised that the security had a gun on the other side, right? Like, it seemed remarkable from that perspective as well. Did you see the video today about the guy who got denied boarding? I forget which airport it was. Made its way around the internet tonight.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. And I think anyone that is caught and you're going into a Capitol building, you better believe there's a million cameras pointed everywhere. And a lot of these people weren't really concealing their face. So it's going to be somewhat easy for them to identify because they have a lot of evidence. And because of that, I think that what they're going to do is they're going to pick out every single one that they can identify positively and charge them, which they should do. And some worse than others because some were doing things destructive and others were just walking through. But still, I think everyone that set foot in that Capitol building should be charged. And I think that's what you're going to see. And hopefully that sends a strong enough message that they got to change the way that they handle these situations. And that it just has to be an automatic that if you're caught doing anything that resembles something like this destructive, that it's just automatically, hey, you better expect that they're going to be coming at your door one night. They're going to knock you down and then arrest you.
Idiots as to what they saw, since they were right there. And so, staged for only 10 years.
There's two things that come up for me. Is that I enjoyed your, capital city, about a year and a half ago. And for anybody who's listening who's not been to DC, let the Canadian tell you what my experience of DC was. It was one of the most remarkable, beautiful, powerful, nicest places to go. And I didn't understand the difference between the District of Columbia versus being a state and all those things. And all the people I met, I asked questions and they were just like, oh, by the way, this is how it works. And it was one of the best visits I've ever had to your country ever in my life. When we stayed in Virginia, we went to Dulles, we went to the Air Museum, we went downtown, we rode scooters, we went to the zoo. I'm in Calgary, so the Calgary elephants are in the DC Zoo, so we went to see them, Spike and the elephants, and it was one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had in my life. I do know this. It is a long trip from the National Mall down by the White House and all that stuff, all the way down to the Capitol building. And I used to joke, it was kind of like a country song in that you could watch your dog run away for 3 days, right? And they saw that crowd coming for a long time.
Wow.
And is it not surprising the sort of lack of preparedness or politicking or whatever went on in regards to not having enough people in?
Did we not hear them say there'd only be 100 National
Guards? It really is.
And they wouldn't be ours.
I think about having all of our elected officials in one location and not having more there at the time. There was other officials that said, don't bring in the National Guard ahead of time. It'd be a bad look if we had that. And in retrospect, we wish we would have had the precautions or better fencing or whatever it was to fortify it, so even if someone got the idea that they could be stopped at the source. And the other thing is, I think when it comes to Trump rallies, there was a President Trump speech, not at that location, but close to that location. And when you go back and look at all the different rallies he's had over the past 4 years, it's been all without incident. And I don't know if that set a precedent where they thought, well, there hasn't been a problem before, there shouldn't be one now, because we're going to have a lot more security than we normally have for one of these. And I don't know if it was just that was part of it or not. Maybe they just didn't want the appearance that when it came to our election and counting the electoral votes, this is the process that we go through here in America. I know it's different in Canada, but the process where we have the electoral college in each individual state is given an opportunity for people to protest if they feel there was something wrong with that state's count. And then all of the congressmen get together, Senate in the House. They have their ability to question it. Either they have it sponsored or not, and then they go through with it and eventually certify the election for whoever won. And then in that case, it leads to the inauguration a couple of weeks later. Well, when you have all of the members of the elected officials in one place, you would think that it would be warranted to back this up. And unfortunately, that was not the case. And then there's also questions of, were they asking for backup? Were they denied? Were they not given it? What's all of that procedure like to begin with? So, yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of investigations.
What exactly was supposed to happen?
There's that TV show on Netflix, and the name has been escaping me all day today. It's the story about the one guy who he's House representative. He's like the spare, and he's the only guy who doesn't go to the Capitol building.
Designated survivor.
Designated survivor. But doesn't it seem strikingly concerning that, you know, fundamentally, I mean, it was just a TV show and it was about a terrorist attack with bombs. But really, when you look at what could have happened, and I realize I'm speculating, but it is possible that got really bad.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that's true. I guess in that case, the president of the United States would be the designated survivor, because if everyone else is there, including the vice president, who presides over the Senate in this case, would be there too. So pretty much everyone. You know, there's cabinet members. I guess they would be high-ranking cabinet officials that wouldn't be there. So it wouldn't be exactly that. But when they do the State of the Union, where the president's given the yearly address, and they always have someone that's out just in case, it's kind of a sad reality. I mean, I guess in general, they always have some contingency plans put into place. It does make you wonder, what was the contingency plan there if things got really bad? We just don't know. I'm sure there was a plan.
There's like 4 seats for China.
Just sad all the way around. It was just difficult to watch.
It's heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking to see that kind of stuff happen, because, you know, the one thing that I'm a big fan of is those political buildings. I mean, they're so important in every country with the history of what every country's gone through. And to see them wrapped with a fence and locked up like that, you know, to that extent is incredibly sad and heartbreaking. I mean, there was generations ago, your grandparents, great-grandparents, and so same with mine, and everybody who's listening did some amazing things and created some amazing new worlds. And to think that this is where we are in 2021 with buildings fenced off so people can't go to them, that's heartbreaking to me. That seems like a huge step backwards.
Yeah, and it's also unfortunate, because I would think the last time we saw it like this, I'm sure other protests excluded, would be when there's a government lockdown. They're so stupid here in the United States that they'll actually block off public parks and places like that. So if you were to go to Washington, D.C. during a government lockdown, or a shutdown, I should say, excuse me, where they haven't agreed on the budget, so they shut down government agencies and they shut down parks. You can go anywhere in D.C. that normally you'd have free access to, like, you know, the World War II Memorial or something, and they'll put gates up and blocking you from going to see those things. That's how stupid things get here. So lack of access probably compared a little bit to that, except there wasn't much force of anyone. It's just terrible.
Well, I hope that everybody learns from it, not only, you know, your country, but our country too. All political division around the world. I hope people learn from it and get, okay, well, here's a potential outcome. is it worth it for us to sit down and work on things and actually have a conversation? Because we've all stopped talking in the last 10 years here, and it's getting brutal. Ryan Recker, thank you so much, brother. It's great to hear your voice. You know what? The next couple of weeks are going to be stressful for you and your family and your friends and your listeners, and we're watching and hope everything works out.
Storm somewhere in the
yeah, honestly, it's more stressful if you are on social media looking at these things. I think, if anything, it might be a good time to take a break from it, just not to let it bother you.
It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt, the weekend edition.
What would that mean? BBC, right?
For West Ham, Brighton, and for West Bromwich Albion. RB Leipzig missed a chance to take over from Bayern Munich at the top of the German Bundesliga. They held to a 2-2 draw by Wolfsburg and remain in second spot, a point behind Bayern, who take on Freiburg today. At the African Nations Championship, the tournament for locally based players, the host nation
be able to think about the idea, why don't I just sign up a course to learn from the professionals how to skate or how to ski?
Jesus,
There's so many venues. You just need to do some research, and
just in case when they
those
take over
venues can
Canada.
provide you very
Canada
professional help.
If they're going to lay it down on the United States,
That's
Canada's
right.
right
Very
here.
interesting kind of
They might have to
experience
skate
there.
up and down these
So
roads.
let's see whether Bingxi in ancient China, playing on the ice, could become something more interesting or innovative among common people. Or involving more people there. Indeed. Okay, on that note, let's go to a song break, and we have the song from the 1975, Is Not Living.
On everything you'll need to reset your rest at Casper.ca. Exclusions may apply. See Casper.ca/promo for more details and end date.
Northwood Mortgage. So, how's your blood pressure? Pretty good? What if I said fixed or variable? 3 years or 5, 10, 25%, or maybe no down payment at all? Self-employed, bad credit, lots of consumer debt? So how's your pressure now? Yeah,
You seriously
pretty much
gonna
what
have
I
5
thought.
minutes?
You want to make the most important financial decision.
Over time. So we decided we need to provide a better opportunity for the children, not only for their education, but also for their future.
We don't want our children to grow up what they want to say at school, they cannot say, or they dare not to say, or they be careful what they have to talk about. That's not the life we want them to have.
The children, Cordelia, who's 14, and Paul, who's 11, have already found a school in their new home city, York. It's not been easy to adjust, as Cordelia explains.
We weren't excited at first. We took quite some time to fit in and get used to the teaching system.
But Britain does have some advantages over Hong Kong.
There's not much homework, and you do homework whenever you
Compared to Hong Kong, Jesus
The
Christ.
sequence of events that led Britain to changing its visa rules began with pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong in 2019. Beijing was furious, seeing the demonstrations as an attack on its sovereignty over Hong Kong.
Why would tear gas
So it
pop,
granted
pop, pop,
itself
pop?
sweeping powers in the territory, handed back by the UK in 1997.
The Prime Minister and the Government are crystal clear. The United Kingdom will keep its word. We will live up to our responsibilities to the people of Hong Kong.
Britain responded. The Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab announced that Hong Kong residents who previously registered as British overseas nationals would be allowed to move to the UK with their families. More than 5 million are eligible.
This costs them nothing. This is the cheapest
seen the
immigration
Chinese and
plan.
Russian war
Hong Kong
games
immigration
in
consultant Andrew Lowe said Britain's announcement led to immediate inquiries, partly because there appears to be few barriers to entry.
We apply immigration to Canada, Australia, or Taiwan. They suspend the application because you pay nothing for going to the UK.
But not everyone eligible will come to Britain. Some might not want to break family ties. They'll have to be wealthy enough to fund themselves when they get here. And the British weather, like today's bitter cold, is not to everyone's taste. Andrew Lowe says others don't want to abandon Hong Kong to its fate.
Facility.
Still have certain number of people, they don't want to leave Hong Kong, especially the young generation. They refuse to immigrate to anywhere. They rather die in Hong Kong. I have a lot of clients. They have a fight with their kids, their son and daughter, because their son and daughter don't want to immigrate. They say, I'm a Hong Kong people. Why should I leave? I should make contribution and try my effort to change this place.
But many, like Andy Lee and his family, will make the thousands will come over the next 5 years. That number could be higher or lower, depending on how hard China decides to squeeze Hong Kong.
That was Michael Bristow reporting. You're listening to the BBC World Service live from London. This is Weekend.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media with support from Magoosh, online test prep for GRE, GMAT, ACT, and SAT. Staying at home is a great time to prepare for something new with self-guided lessons and support. Magoosh.com and Noom.
One sports game every 4 years.
You watch racing, there's a new one every fucking week.
She enjoys seeing the change in her models, in the way they clothe themselves, feel about their body, and engage with the outside world. As we've seen today, for many of these larger Chinese girls, maybe for the first time in their lives, they're being given more options and, most importantly, confidence. And as their ranks continue to grow, plus-size modeling will transform from being an innovation in China to an established...
I don't remember what I was aiming for. Sergeant Preston.
Why
can't we hear Aaliyah all day? What's wrong with you? Suspense.
You'll be going back to Dodge now, Marshal?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
I want to thank you for trying to stop it.
It's my job.
No.
Okay, it's either BBC.
BBC News with Danielle Yarowiecka. Joe Biden's team has revealed details of up to a dozen executive orders, which the US president-elect will sign within hours of his inauguration. The measures will reverse key parts of Donald Trump's program. They include rejoining the Paris Climate Accord and scrapping a ban on travel from a number of largely Muslim countries. Thousands of National Guard troops have been deployed in Washington ahead of the ceremony on Wednesday. Mexico has urged Honduras to stop the flow of migrants making their way through Central America towards the United States. 9,000 people have crossed from Honduras into Guatemala since Friday. The Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is due back in Moscow later for the first time since he was nearly killed last year by a nerve agent attack. He says the Kremlin was behind the attempt on his life, an allegation the Russian government has denied. Mr. Navalny faces arrest on his return. Police in the Afghan capital Kabul say gunmen have shot dead 2 judges, both of them women, as a wave of assassinations continues. They were killed as they were driven to work.
Why were you going to work?
Regulators in Brazil have rejected a request for emergency approval of the Russian coronavirus vaccine Sputnik V. They said the final phase of tests hadn't been carried out in Brazil. A local laboratory was planning to produce millions of doses of the vaccine.
Cuba.
The American Space Agency, NASA, insists its test firing of the engines used in its lunar space project Artemis was successful despite cutting it short. The planned 8-minute exercise was halted after little more than a minute. Japan's government spokesman says preparations to hold the delayed Tokyo Olympics are going ahead, despite the suggestion by a cabinet minister the games might not happen. According to opinion polls, most people in Japan want the Olympics to be put off or cancelled. BBC News.
Hello, you're listening to Weekend.
Superdome, take a 14-3 lead.
The one text comes in, this very good text from Dwayne.
So especially at this present moment, it has been on the rise for the last few years. I believe where we are at this present moment is that it has far exceeded what we are seeing out of Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Plus, Uganda's longtime president, Yoweri Museveni, has been re-elected, electoral officials there say, amid accusations of vote fraud by his main rival, Bobi Wine. He tells us he and his wife are not being allowed to leave their home by soldiers.
When I tried to leave my house, I was blocked by the military, and even my wife has been assaulted when she was trying to go and buy food. We are all rounded up and arrested in our house.
That's coming up a bit later in the program. Now, let me introduce you to the two people who'll be our guests for the course of the next 2 hours. They are Maria Margaronis, London-based writer and broadcaster, and Peter Neumann, Professor of Security Studies at King's College London. Really? He's also founding director of the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation. They join us both remotely, as is the custom, of course, at the moment. Welcome both. Wow. Maria, your Twitter self-description reads, "Writing and radio girly swat." Are you quoting the British Prime Minister?
I was, yes. But also I'm a bit of a girly swat, and I'm proud of it.
What does that mean?
It means... it means I like kind of abstruse facts and obscure academic pursuits, as well as being a journalist.
You're Anglo-Greek, aren't you?
I am, indeed. I was born to a Greek family in London. I always say I grew up on a small Greek island in North London. So Greek was my first language.
And tell me about your road to journalism.
Well, I really, it was to do with loving words and writing. I lived in America for 10 years. In my 20s, I got an internship of my first job at a fantastic weekly magazine called The Nation, where I later worked and whose London correspondent I was for many years. I worked at the Village Voice in its exciting late 80s, early 90s days. And about 9 years ago, I fell in love with radio here at BBC, and I've discovered a whole new dimension to what one can do with words and sound.
Thank you. Peter Neumann, Professor of Security Studies, King's College London. You were born in southern Germany, weren't you, in Bavaria?
I was born in a town called Würzburg in Bavaria, and you just made me very happy because I was able to mention that.
Okay, you can talk about it more if you like. Tell us about growing up and then how you came to live in Britain, I think in London via Belfast, is that right?
Yes, it's true, and it's actually very interesting in light of recent debates, because I first came to Britain via Northern Ireland because as a student, as an Erasmus student, I was sent to Belfast. So the Erasmus program brought me to Britain, and depending on whether me being in Britain you think is a good thing or not, may also influence your view then of the Erasmus program.
You said you liked the vibe in 1990s or 2000s Britain? Why?
Did I say that?
Well, you said it to somebody, not to me, but I read my brief and I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, I quite liked it. That was the first decade I was here, and it was an important decade for me personally. But I also thought that, it was nice to be in London. It was not exactly up and coming. London has always been a major world capital, but it was during that period that I think everyone thought that London was the center of the world. And I feel that since 2016 especially, a lot of people have become a little bit more gloomy about London.
Is London down and going now?
I don't think so. London will always be a big city, but I do feel as a European in London that the country has turned on itself a little bit, has become a little bit more inward looking. And even though it is, of course, still a very cosmopolitan country, a cosmopolitan city, I do think that it was easier perhaps to be an international person in the 2000s rather than 2010s.
Peter Neumann and Maria Margaronis via Bavaria and Athens are our guests on this edition of Weekend. We go to Germany now, where the end of the era of Chancellor Angela Merkel has moved a step closer. Her party, the Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, has governed Germany for 50 out of the past 70 years. Merkel has led it for 18 years. From yesterday, the party's elected a new leader. He's called Armin Laschet. He also has a good chance to succeed Mrs. Merkel as Chancellor in the next German elections due in the autumn, although that's not a given. Joining me now live to explain is Jana Puljarin, who is director of the Berlin-based European Council for Foreign Relations, which is a think tank. Welcome, Jana. There are other people in the running for Chancellor then, are there?
Yes, we have two other promising candidates, although one of those might have self-destroyed himself yesterday. So we have our health minister, Jens Spahn, who basically teamed up with Armin Laschet. They won this together. But Spahn yesterday torpedoed the process by coming in kind of with a second endorsement speech for Armin Laschet, whereas he was supposed to ask only a question, and that didn't go down very well with kind of the CDU establishment. And he later got elected as basically one of the vice chairmen, and he got a very poor result. So I'm not so sure about Jens Spahn's potential for candidate, but we have, of course, Markus Söder, the governor of Bavaria, who is super popular with the German public, and who is basically the not-so-secret front-runner in that race. So a lot of people are speculating that Armin Laschet will just not succeed to get a lot of support from the German public. He hasn't gotten a lot of support previously, and that
or not do on Twitter.
Doc, 2021. How about these two resolutions for the new year? Spending quality time with your family.
One of these is about fat cross. One is about. Damn it.
Be a really interesting anecdote later on, because some of the beer fans, they could collect this kind of bottles, because these bottles are the only versions with mistaken words printed on there. You can never find anything else like them after this. After they publicize the right versions, I bet all the markets, all the supermarkets, wherever you go to purchase,
this is a limited edition.
That was
limited editions, meaning perhaps that they would not, push this kind of products once again to the market. But anyways, I think maybe some fans would not be interested in the beer bottle instead of the content. Perhaps it's the drink that they are interested in instead of the beer bottle. But I think it's, to me, seeing a very established brewery or company selling their products with some misspellings there or typo there is not a great thing. Perhaps I'm too strict, but I mean, there's no point to waste the good, the good beer, right? I don't want to waste that.
Give it to
but I think they should do something.
What is the typo?
For example, it's hard for them to just discard the original bottle, like the tin cans. But what they can do is, mend it a little bit. Maybe they can print something and correct this typo on each bottle. It takes some effort. Perhaps it's going to increase the cost.
Where is this shit actually being bottled?
I think it will be better for the image of the company.
What's the typo? They'll never tell us.
As chairman of the CDU, yet in the end he won. And now everyone is saying, well, Söder is going to become chancellor candidate. Well, let's see, because I think he is not so secretly very ambitious. Laschet.
Jana, let's talk about Angela Merkel's legacy. She's seldom been described as most charisma, but she has an amazing approval rating for someone who's been in power for 16 plus years, doesn't she?
Yes, I mean, she has had ups and downs over the years. So in the heights of the refugee crisis, people were less sympathetic. But now, due to the coronavirus pandemic, her approval rating is skyrocketing again. And I mean, it's quite cynical to say this, but for her personally, Corona was also some sort of a blessing, because a year ago, kind of every journalist in Berlin was writing about the end of the Grand Coalition, about Angela Merkel being a lame duck, and then Corona came, and then kind of another crisis came, and she's just such an experienced and convincing crisis manager.
People felt reassured reassured and calmed by her.
Yeah, and then
What
she
are the
took
numbers
over,
like in
and
Germany right now?
well, actually, Germany did quite well during the first wave of the pandemic. Now, not so well any longer in the second wave, but people don't blame Merkel for that. They blame now Jens Spahn, our health minister, or other people. But Merkel basically gained a lot of popularity again because she kind of was a very good crisis manager throughout her career with all the crises, I would say personally, including the refugee crisis.
Maria Margaronis, she's had her fair share of detractors in Greece, Angela Merkel, hasn't she?
She very much has. I mean, during the crisis in Greece in the 2010s, Merkel had become a kind of hate figure, and you'd see people carrying around sometimes, pictures of her in a Nazi uniform and so on. But I think her handling of the refugee crisis in 2015 and 16, as Peter said, really changed the way many people see her. I, for one, will miss her very much. I think that also, then Europe, as you pointed out, will be basically ruled by middle-aged white men. And she's been this very steadying figure who turns out under her very tough exterior to be very compassionate.
China's run by middle-aged Chinese men.
And I think she'll be missed a lot. And I, for one, am very relieved that Friedrich Merz didn't win this leadership election, because if Germany, if the CDU had moved right in the way that he was suggesting it should, that would have tipped the balance in Europe, I think, more towards those authoritarian anti-migration leaders of to the east of Germany, which would have been a very bad sign indeed.
Jana, you said you were a big supporter of her stance on the refugee crisis in 2015. And do you think, to an extent, she's lucky to have been labelled compassionate? There were compelling economic reasons, weren't there, for accepting all those refugees with a declining and aging workforce into Germany. She never stressed them. She was all for humanitarian reasons. Slightly disingenuous?
Yeah, to be fair, I think the moment Merkel took the decision not to close the borders, I don't know how well thought through all that was. And I think it was really the pressure of the moment, the images we saw from Hungary, and also back then the German public was still very much in favor of kind of welcoming the refugees. We had something called a welcoming culture here. People went with teddy bears to train stations to welcome the refugees. So the very moment she took the decision, I think she was not aware what she was up to then later. But of course, I mean, she's stressed European values, and that and she even said that Germany would no longer be her country if we would not have taken that decision. I mean, there are also downsides. She did not coordinate with the European allies. She just took the decision all by herself.
Briefly on Europe, she was seen as not just the Mutti of Germany, but to an extent the Mutti of Europe. Is there a chance that with his brilliant French, Armin Laschet could be Fatih Europe?
I don't think that he has her political weight yet. And I think, but Armin Laschet is actually, Peter said that, very close to Emmanuel Macron when it comes to worldviews, also views on foreign policy, on Russia. So I think maybe they get along better on a personal level, and also in terms of kind of worldviews than Merkel and Macron.
Thank you very much. Jana Puljarin, Director of the European Council for Foreign Relations in Berlin. The time is 6:47 nearly GMT. Italy now, and the mafia. One of the largest anti-mafia trials in decades got underway on Wednesday amid high security in Calabria, in the south of Italy. The trial involves more than 350 people suspected of having links to the 'Ndrangheta organized crime group. It includes politicians, police officers, and civil servants. Charges range from abuse of office and money laundering to drug trafficking and murder. The 'Ndrangheta dominates Europe's cocaine trade. It's estimated to have at least 20,000 members worldwide. Here's one of Italy's top anti-mafia prosecutors, Nicola Gratteri, talking about the criminal organization to Weekend's sister program NewsHour in 2018.
L'andrangheta è la mafia più pericolosa nel mondo occidentale, la più ricca.
L'andrangheta is the most dangerous and